Greetings, hey, it's Susie Q. Today we begin to break down attraction 41 questions. Today is question number 26. These can be found via podcast and video at YouTube channel Holistic Healing Community by Susie Juravich. Do subscribe to follow this complimentary offering of how to tune in to attracting your desired goal, intent, or juicy, groovy new vibe. Today's question is, what are you already most accomplished in? Let me read that again. What are you already most accomplished in? So yesterday I came up with some inspired thought, and I'm going to break it down again today. So these words came in, and I just wrote them down. The jewels of the Magdalene are just below the surface. Rise as they do, you too will sparkle and shine. So taking that and breaking that down, the jewels of the Magdalene, is that when we really kind of dive in a little bit deeper, and this talks about being just below the surface, that there's a lot of truth and trust that comes from looking at different times in your life when you were really in your, just most beautiful flow or accomplished space. And so there's going to be some certain energies that created that feeling of accomplishment when you felt the most accomplished. So there's energies, and there's also effective action that goes in. So the energies first bring this awareness to us, and then through taking appropriate action, effective action, and moving forward, then you'll see that what you've done in the past, perhaps, is something that you can draw in now and use those abilities when you were the most accomplished. So there were some winning ingredients there, and so it's really for you, as we go through this podcast, for you to really tune into a time where you were super duper in flow and things were really rocking and rolling with you. And even if it was, a long time ago, or if it was yesterday, or if it's happening now, just tune into those ingredients that really make it so for you to be super duper accomplished, okay? So I'm going to just kind of go into a little bit of something that I found that I was accomplished in, and it's kind of a two-step. I'm from Texas, so this is like a two-step process here. So a time where I felt really in the flow with my real estate business. I started in real estate like 36 years ago. That seems so long. Anyway, my most accomplished time for me, okay, now there was other times I did different types of real estate, but my most accomplished for me was when I was doing land sales and selling ranches and also doing land development. And from that vantage point of accomplishment in my career, I really found that I felt more alive and more juicy and more amazing when I was walking land, okay? And so I was known as the dirt chick out in the Texas Hill Country. That mostly it was men who were selling the land, and a lot of those men took me under their wing as an apprentice, and they taught me how to really get in there and talk about the land. Okay. Now, I loved being out in nature as a child. However, when these older cowboys got together with me, they really taught me. There was one in particular that really taught me how to paint, almost like have a canvas when you're out walking land, almost like have a canvas, and paint a picture of how from going from unimproved land to improved land, how it might look for the person I'm working with who is seeking to purchase land. So I was able to really go into beautiful visualizations and creations of what it might be like when a person buys that land. Okay, and there's also some other nuances with this, with the land, is that if a person came to me with a beautiful piece of architecture that they've already had a house designed and everything, it was really nothing I could work with, okay? Because if they came without the land, but they came with a blueprint, it wasn't in alignment with the way that I worked with the land. And so what we did was, in most cases, I would get a person who is looking for land. So we first find the land, we understand the land, we listen to the land, we get the internal messages from the land, what will be on the land itself. So basically, the land, as well as the improvements, begin to become one. They become one unified field. Okay, and so there's so many other things I could talk about land, but ranches were beautiful because you could go out and scout. And as a scout myself, I would go out and find the highest and best place that I feel would be a beautiful place for a home site, even if it's a larger tract, that we would go out and scout. And so that was, brought me a lot of pleasure. And I was very accomplished when I was doing the land sales and selling ranches. And it felt like fun. I used to work in blue jeans and boots, a cowboy hat, and not a cowboy hat, a baseball cap, no makeup. And if somebody called me on an afternoon where it was rainy, I would always jump in the car, because I know if somebody called me about looking at land and it's pouring down rain, I know I'm going to have a sale. So every time I had a rainy day call, I would leave and go show the property. And back then I had a home office, and the people would sit at the kitchen table. I'd make coffee and, hang out with them, and we'd write up the deal at my kitchen table, maybe make coffee or iced tea or something. And I've had a lot of really neat experiences with that, because a lot of my clients, I'm not really a big fan of too much. I'm just a fan of life. However, I've had several professional athletes. I've had quite a few professional athletes I've worked with. And so one afternoon, this was so funny, I was writing up a deal, and this buyer asked if he could bring his parents and then his aunt and uncle. And I said, sure. So while I'm writing up the deal with this young man, his mom and dad were at the table. And then his aunt and uncle said they wanted to do some chores at my house. I had this place out in the country. And it was so cute because he had noticed on my white stone that some of it had become discolored because of rain, and that dirt kind of bouncing back up on that white rock. It was a little bit stained by the soil. So anyway, he asked if I had anything to clean it with. I said, no, not really, but look around, do whatever you want to do. So anyway, I ended up doing the deal with that young man. And then the couple days later, he called and he said, do you know who my uncle was? And I said, no, I don't know. He had just been inducted into the Hall of Fame for football, as a football player. And for the life of me, I still can't remember his name. But he said, it gave him a lot of pleasure to do that for you. But yeah, he just was inducted in the Hall of Fame for football. So I've dealt with football players, baseball players. I dealt with a young baseball pitcher. He was just the most awesome kid, and he was huge too. On TV, they look small, but in real life, man, they're just huge, just beautiful. Okay, so the two-step part of this is. So we're talking about what are you already most accomplished in. So as I really got into working the land, and then of course making all these connections with people, creating a picture of what it might be like when it's completed. I learned all these skills through people that assisted me in being more accomplished. The two-step fold became part of my writing practice. So a lot of these experiences I had by being touched by the land and listening to the land, being one with the land, created more opportunities for me to write. And a lot of my written material that I've written over the years covers a lot of these beautiful and sacred moments of really like communion with the land. And so the writing has been a great benefactor of a real estate accomplishment in my life. The writing has really breathed new life into all those experiences. And it reminds me of what are the steps for me right now as I'm looking to accomplish something new. What are some of those steps I took when I was really in the flow with land? And I can tell you right now, my biggest accomplishment was finding something I really, really loved, learning more about it, finding great mentors that assisted me, and then just walking the land and learning, and effectively writing deals. And back then I was had real estate signs all over the place where I lived. And so I became known as the dirt chick. Anyway, so I'm hoping that this will kind of encourage you to go deeper, just like the jewels of the Magdalene are just below the surface. So just below the surface of, a beautiful spark of inspired thought, or right before that moment of accomplishment, if you can dig just a little bit deeper, tap into your own natural resource inside of you, and remember and tune into a time when you were totally in the flow and all was moving along just beautifully. Tap into that. Okay, we're not saying live in the past. We are saying there's resources inside of you right now that are waiting to be tapped into. It's like jewels right underneath the ground, and you know exactly where they are. Dig around a little bit and tap into those energies. They're inside of you now. And when you do this, you will sparkle and shine, and your accomplishments in this now will shine even brighter than they had before. You have a most beautiful and blessed day.